28 MPs fell, but in their attempt. Prior to that, 19 others chose not to run. The voting, by all accounts, across the country was very smooth and very peaceful. But in some cases, the counting seems to be where the challenges came up. Your thoughts on this, and then the party's position, as in we are waiting not to make any comments, we're waiting till we get the full reports from the 3 different places. Yes, your thoughts.
Oh, okay, so good morning once again, and good morning to our viewers. Happy New Year to Prof. I haven't seen it in a while. Like you said, the election generally held in some 101 constituencies was generally peaceful. And I think congratulations are also in order for the way we've conducted ourselves from the first phase of our presidential primaries to the main one through orphan constituencies to this last lap that we have to take care of to face the general election and our main opponents in opposition. So it's just in order to congratulate the rank and file of the New Patriotic Party, especially the leadership starting from National Council to the National Executive led by the Chairman Stephen Ntim and the General Secretary. With the issue to do with Yendi, I think what has to be done or what has to be said at this point in time is what the leadership of the party has said. So Article 12 of our Constitution stipulates how we go about selection. So if you realize there were statements after statements indicating what the modalities are and every other thing that has to be done. And security and the electoral process, that's the voting process, was the exclusive duty of the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service. In addition to that, the national office deploys national officers to go on monitoring. Prior to that, there's an elections committee set up that goes through the whole process of vetting, balloting and all that to make sure that any person who is putting themselves up is a person of good standing, has the party at heart, and is a candidate that when the elections are held and the person wins, they can represent the party and secure the seat of that constituency for the party. So all those processes take place before the D-Day, which is the election. So for END, until reports from the EC, report from the police, and the monitoring team that was deployed from the national and regional levels, if those reports are not received and reconciled properly, because we have barely 9 months to election. Yendi is a very crucial seat for us. We all know the history of Yendi. It's one of our strongholds, but due to certain happenings in the past. And these are not mistakes we need to repeat. The 2 candidates there, apart from being role models for young people, are also members of repute. One is the incumbent, one is the CEO at Maslow. So dealing with this issue must be dealt with properly, so no one comes out. Because at the end of it all, we need both of them to secure the seats. Because once you go for a contest with someone, even if they secure 2 votes, that means they have some level of support. You need them to come on board to help you get a general one. So I think the position that the position that party leadership has taken is the way to go. You just don't. I've seen petitions from the 2 candidates. Everybody's telling their side of the story. The monitors are telling their side of the story. Police will definitely have to also let us know, because they were in charge of security there. The EC that were in charge of the process of voting. And I mean, we are not oblivious to the voting process. We've all been to one election or the other in this country. You get to the polling station, you're verified, they make sure your name was on the list, you dip your hand in indelible ink, the ballot is issued for you, you cast your ballot. Then counting starts. That's the crucial point of it. So if all those allegations that are being, for lack of a better expression, thrown around by both candidates are not investigated and investigated well, to a logical conclusion that both parties will be comfortable enough to help campaigning there, then we are heading nowhere. Because looking at what we have in Parliament now, we need to secure a convincing majority to...
One of the leaders
yes.
of the party in Yendi
yes.
was reported to have come out to say that he's declaring Farouk Mahama as the winner. Of course, your JFK came and said that's not from National. That's whatever the person is doing, they're doing in their own corner. But I want your thoughts on that particular action that person took to declare one person.
It's just like saying that...
meanwhile, you're not in charge of declaring anything.
Exactly. It's the EC's mandate to do a declaration. It's the EC that will do the declaration. And the party will accept.
Shouldn't the party be calling that person to book?
Calling... No, but David, there are a lot of issues happening now.
Okay.
You just don't call the person to book when you haven't listened to their side of the story. Okay. And that is through all these reports. There are alleged videos of one of the national executives and regional executives declaring, but they know clearly by the modalities that were put out for the conduct of the election that declaring of results is not the responsibility of any officer. He even said,
by the powers vested in me.
By who? By who? It's just like...
You're not the one conducting the election.
It's just like the general secretary during the general election going and declaring for. Until the EC declares, there's no winner, there's no loser. And that's how elections are conducted. And those things were spelled out clearly. Yeah. Officers that went to the constituencies were there to do monitoring and also to make sure that the whole process that has started ends up the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. That's the core mandate of executives that were there, not to go and declare results.
Let me read the press release by the EC and then I'll bring in Prof to comment. Now, this is from the Electoral Commission. The New Patriotic Party parliamentary primaries declaration of results in the Yendi constituency. The attention of the Electoral Commission has been drawn to a video circulating on social media depicting a gentleman declaring the results of the just-ended MPP parliamentary primaries in the Yendi constituency in favor of the incumbent. The Electoral Commission wishes to inform the general public that it has not declared for the Yendi constituency in the just-ended MPP parliamentary elections. 785 voters voted out of 794 registered voters. The counting of ballots for the incumbent, Honorable Farouk Aliyu Mahama, was disrupted when the presiding officer had counted 296 votes in his favor. Unfortunately, the destruction of 489 ballots, which remained to be counted, made it impossible for the presiding officer to complete the collation and declare the results. The commission therefore dissociates itself from the declaration. And this is signed by Michael Buedu, who is the acting head of public affairs at the EC. All right, so Prof, what do you make of all the happenings around the parliamentary primaries at this time?
Yeah, good morning once again, and Happy New Year to you and my good friend, Laura too. Yeah, I think the MPP primary is a verdict of what Ghanaians have been calling out for bad governance, having witnessed about 28 MPs being kicked out, with a very significant percentage of them being ministers and deputy ministers. Ghanaians have always called out for reshuffling, and the fact that the way the country is being ruled is not in the best interest of Ghanaians, and have called out for reshuffling and even removal of some ministers, which the government have turned deaf ear to it. And we have seen that delegates have shown that you cannot impose people on them. And the outcome of this election is just a verdict to show that the ordinary Ghanaian is not happy about the governance of this country. And they have unleashed their anger on deputy ministers and also some MPs. I am hoping, and in fact, not just hoping, but I am certain that in December 7th, we will see a tsunami in the political landscape of this country when MPP is booted out. So the primary is just more or less a surface of what will happen in December 7th. Now, having said that, we've also witnessed the usual characteristics of MPP, sharing of goodies during parliamentary elections. I was so surprised and shocked when I saw videos on social media of MPs sharing flash screen television, people sharing.
But did you see MPs actually sharing?
Oh, they had their labels. I mean, these TVs were customized TV with their pictures
on
and
them.
Labels on them. I mean, that certainly shows that they were the ones sharing. It was coming from their camp. People sharing motorbikes. It's just unbelievable. And I remember Honorable Apia Kubi made a statement that it's so expensive, you know, going into primary. And the amount he spent, if he had to spend that in the next election, probably he would just quit politics. And that is quite worrying in the fact that we have made our politics, or we've monetized, or more or less monetized our politics. And it's worrying in the sense that at the end of the day, it's more or less the highest bidder that wins an election, and not necessarily the best candidate for the people. And that is worrying, seeing what happened during the weekend elections. Again, what I want to also point out during the primary is the fact that we saw that the EC in this particular primary used an indelible ink during the elections. But during the assembly election, there wasn't an indelible ink. And there are some proposals made by the EC that they intend not to use an indelible ink. So I was just wondering, why would they use indelible ink during the MPP parliamentary election, and during the main election, they are making that proposal that they will not use?
No, but that one is...
so that is something I think that we need to watch out. Why do they...
But you know what you know the rationale that they give for it, right? They are saying that they are moving towards a modernized election process, and that if we can up our game as far as the BVDs are concerned, it will be easy to check anybody who is trying to do double voting without necessarily having, you know, putting indelible ink on your fingers, right? Now, I particularly don't understand why it's necessary to remove the indelible ink, Okay, for me, I think that it doesn't spoil anything, you know. And besides, it's almost like part of our historical tradition, you know, to have ink on your finger that says you voted. So I don't understand the urgency to remove indelible ink. But I also understand the argument that says if you have BVDs, the BVDs will, and they are working well, you know, it will catch anybody who's doing double voting, and therefore, then maybe there's no need for the indelible ink.
I think this argument is very weak, and
why?
It's an argument that EC shouldn't even put out there, because we've all witnessed in this country there are instances where BVDs are not working. True. There are instances where even either the network connection are not working, and people have to vote without verification. So in that instance, how would you proceed? Yeah. Would people just vote when, I mean, these are gadgets. Yeah. They are gadgets that can easily spoil, or anything can happen. So what happens if during voting a BVD spoil or it's not working, and there's no buffer
where you even have to do manual verification?
Exactly.
You know,
what do you do? Do you tell the people that you cannot vote because the BVDs are not working, or you say that okay, you go and vote? Then that person has the potential to come back and vote, or go to another either polling station or something to go and vote. I think that it does not hurt. You say you try to make amends when you think that something is not good enough, but in a situation where you think that you just don't want to use it because there's now a modernized system of election. So I asked myself during the MPP primaries that people were not many. How come they couldn't use the BVDs maybe to capture these individuals, but then they felt it was necessary for them to use indelible ink for people, or prevent people from voting twice?
No, I guess.
So I think that, for me, I think that it's something that we should not even look at. We are trying to, you know, put measures in place so that if a candidate or a political party loses, the person accepts the results. But if we put in place things that doubt the credibility of the EC, then we are kind of raising suspicions. And I think that that's something that EC should not, because if assembly elections, they didn't see it necessary to use indelible ink, why are they seeing it necessary to use it during the MPP primary? Again, I want to also mention the fact that declaration of results other than, or anybody declaring results other than EC is something that should be condemned. We have witnessed over the years in instances where MPP have declared their own results, even the final results before EC official results. And what happened in END is just an example of what has ever happened. And I think that it is condemnable.
A few years ago.
No, he was not. No,
a whole stir in town.
That wasn't the case. He did not declare that NDC has won the results. He was just talking about some projections.
And so people should go and protect the ballots.
No, I think these things are two different things. He wasn't saying that. He didn't say that NDC have won the election.
He said by our collation, we are winning the election.
He is just making projection.
But that's dangerous.
So I am saying that, what he did wasn't a declaration of a result. So he was just giving a prediction or a trend that they are seeing. So these are two different things. What happened in Yendi is something that we all need to condemn, because declaring results other than EC brings tension. And we have seen that when...
which is exactly what I see you did, and it brought a lot of tension.
Honorable Farouk's, can you allow me to make my
No, go ahead. I'm just saying that I'm directing the conversation.
Asiedu Nketia did not declare NDC having won the elections. So these are two different things. There's a difference between informing maybe your supporters of the trend you are seeing, and then declaring that we have won an election. These are two different things. And what happened in Yendi, you cannot compare to whatever Honorable Asedu Ketia did, or a free Ankara. So you cannot compare these two occurrences. But I want to just say that what Farouk's camp did is something that is condemnable, because when they declared Farouk as being the winner of the election, the following day we saw his opponent also supporters trooping to the street and also declaring their candidate being the winner of the elections. So I would want to say that these are just trademark of MPP, so I am not surprised seeing this thing, but it's something that we should all discourage and condemn. And going forward, I think we should allow EC to declare results. What some of us heard was also one of the reasons why this confusion started was the fact that it was alleged that an EC official was trying to spoil the ballot paper of the opponent of the MP, and that also created some agitation. I think that going forward, as a country, we should try to select our electoral or EC official carefully, in order not to select people who are so biased, people who seem to have so much interest in the outcome of a particular polling station or a particular constituency or the outcome of the election. Because when that happens, there are always some fictitious ways they would want to help, either to compromise on the outcome of the election, and for that matter, the transparency of the whole process. So I think the EC should try to put in place measures, not to also appoint people who are so politically affiliated, in order not to allow some of these things.
Doctor needs to know that the election that was held on the 27th of January wasn't a general election. It was an internal party election. And it's members of elect candidates. So this whole talk about rejection by Ghanaians is neither here nor there. The bigger rejection will be when Ghanaians endorse Dr. Bawumia. But what she also needs to know is that it was peaceful. We have an isolated case in Ghana. We didn't have people using machetes and other things to chase people in polling stations like we see with them all the time, people slashing heads and all that. We don't subscribe to violence. And even with what is happening in JND, it's just unfortunate, but we'll be dealt with. If she's talking about sharing, if I say when Prof went for her election, I saw things branded in her name, she was sharing things. Would she agree? So sometimes when we allege some of these things, we need to be measured. If you saw any parliamentary candidates for the primaries handing over items to it, that's something we must all condemn. But when you haven't seen, people do all kinds of things. Sometimes your opponent can even do things to discredit you, and she knows that better than me. She's been through the process more than once, you know. So when it comes to these things, don't let us take an entrenched we against them position and make it seem that they are bad, we are good. When it comes to violence, we don't subscribe to it. We haven't declared boot for boot. We haven't been slashing each other. What delayed the Odo primaries? Because people slashed each other, you know. So we need to learn. When it comes to our electoral reforms, we all need to learn and make it better. If you're talking about biometric verification, it just makes sense that today when you go to the bank, they pick your biometrics and your details come up. So if you are verified, but even with the process, with the biometric verification, there's manual verification in cases where people can't be verified. So let's all contribute to improving our electoral process. We've come a long way, and let's all build on it.
All right.